Everything shifted in an instant when my husband's voice came through the phone, sharp and devoid of concern. His words cut deep as he accused me of falling apart whenever he needed me most, completely disregarding the fact that I was in the hospital, overwhelmed with fear for our unborn child's well-being. Instead of expressing worry or offering reassurance, he complained about his hunger, frustrated that I wasn't home to prepare his meals. He impatiently announced that he'd just eat out with his parents, as if my absence was nothing more than an inconvenience. His indifference only intensified my anxiety, making me question how I could possibly protect our baby in such a cold, unfeeling environment. Before this, I had been a thriving cosmetic salesperson, recognized for my dedication and success. Falling in love with my husband felt like stepping into a fairy tale, and our whirlwind romance quickly led to marriage. But after I became pregnant, I made the difficult choice to leave my job, to minimize the risk of miscarriage, prioritizing my health and our growing family. As my pregnancy progressed, the man who had once been so eager to start this journey with me began to change. His excitement faded, replaced by impatience and frustration. Tasks that once felt simple became daunting, yet he dismissed my struggles as trivial. His constant questions about food and his dissatisfaction with the meals I managed to prepare left me feeling exhausted and unappreciated. He showed no understanding of the physical and emotional toll pregnancy took on me, brushing off my concerns as mere complaints. He stopped accompanying me to doctor's appointments, and his lack of involvement in our home life left me feeling isolated and abandoned. The warmth that had once filled our home had been replaced with tension. Despite everything, I clung to the hope that this was just a phase, that stress from work, where he was mentoring a new employee, was making him distant. I told myself that things would improve once our baby arrived and life settled down. I whispered reassurances to my growing belly, determined to stay positive even as exhaustion and loneliness weighed on me. But instead of getting better, things only worsened. My in-laws started visiting frequently, often unannounced. Rather than offering support, they criticized the state of our home and questioned how we would manage once the baby arrived. Yet despite their supposed concerns, they still expected to be served whenever they came by. My husband sided with them, making me feel even more inadequate. One particularly exhausting day, heavily pregnant, I went out to buy groceries. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed. I had collapsed from sheer exhaustion, but thankfully the doctors assured me that my baby was unharmed. They advised me to rest for a few days, giving my body time to recover. As I lay there, I noticed multiple missed calls from my husband. Hope flickered for a brief moment. Maybe he had been worried about me. But when I called him back, his first words shattered that hope. "Where have you been?" he demanded, his tone cold and impatient. Still weak, I explained, I fainted at the store and was brought to the hospital. They had to put me on IV fluids, and the doctor wants me to stay for a few days. His response was devoid of concern. "You collapsed, and I'm supposed to care? Why didn't you answer earlier? You're so slow." His words stung, worsening the ache in my heart. "Please don't yell," I begged, fighting back tears. "It's not good for the baby." But he didn't stop. "We're starving here, waiting for your awful cooking, and you're just relaxing in the hospital." His complete lack of empathy left me breathless. He saw me not as his wife, carrying his child, but as someone whose only role was to serve him and his family. I realized in that moment how little my well-being mattered to him. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I ended the call. My body trembled, not from physical weakness, but from the crushing weight of my husband's indifference. As I turned to return to my hospital room, a familiar voice called out to me. "Are you okay?" I looked up to see Elizabeth, an old acquaintance from my days in cosmetics, holding out a towel with a kind smile. The sight of her, a face from a happier time in my life, brought unexpected relief. "Elizabeth, it's really you," I gasped. We had lost touch years ago, but seeing her now felt like a much-needed ray of light. Elizabeth had been one of my favorite clients, a woman who had struggled with self-confidence after a painful divorce. I had helped her rediscover self-care through makeup, and over time, she had become more than just a client. She had become a friend. But after I left my job, we had drifted apart. "I've been wanting to reconnect," I admitted. Elizabeth nodded with a warm smile. "I actually tried looking for you when I got back. She explained that she had spent the past several years working abroad, managing a business. A recent health scare had brought her back home, and she had been eager to find familiar faces. As we talked, she noticed my distress. "You don't have to tell me if you're not ready," she said gently. "But if something's wrong, I'm here." Her kindness was like a lifeline. I opened up about everything: my husband's neglect, my in-laws' constant criticism, my fears about bringing my baby into such an unhealthy environment. "I feel trapped," I confessed. "Without a job, I don't know how I can leave, but I can't keep living like this." Elizabeth's eyes softened with understanding before she made an offer that took me completely by surprise. "I actually have an apartment you can stay in," she said. "I manage a few properties from some land I inherited, and there's a cozy 3-bedroom available. Safe neighborhood, close to shops and a police station. No upfront deposit, and you can start paying rent when you're ready." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "I know you'll take good care of it, and honestly, I just want to help." Her generosity was overwhelming, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. "You're more than welcome to stay there," Elizabeth assured me, her smile full of warmth. Her kindness was a reminder that even in my darkest moments I wasn't alone. Maybe this was the fresh start I desperately needed. I gladly accepted her offer, and once the doctors gave me the all-clear, I didn't return to the home I once shared with my husband. Instead, I moved straight into the apartment Elizabeth had arranged for me. She handled everything effortlessly over the phone, her kindness and efficiency leaving me in awe. As I settled into the warmth of Elizabeth's apartment, I couldn't shake off the guilt of not paying rent immediately, but she laughed it off, waving away my concerns. "Forget about it," she said with a reassuring smile. With my husband at work, I seized the chance to collect my belongings from our old house. The place felt eerily empty, mirroring the void inside me. But Elizabeth's support went beyond offering me shelter. She also introduced me to a lawyer who had once helped her. With their guidance, I firmly decided to move forward with my divorce. The lawyer was encouraging, and each hospital visit reassured me that my baby was healthy, strengthening my resolve. One day, as I was leaving the hospital, my stomach dropped when I saw my husband John waiting for me. Panic set in. I tried to walk away quickly, but my pregnancy slowed me down, giving him the opportunity to block my path. His grip tightened around my arm as he demanded answers about the lawyer and my new living arrangements. But I refused to back down. "Any conversations about divorce, compensation, or child support will go through my lawyer," I stated firmly. "I'm not going home with you." At that moment, a young woman named Lisa stepped in. She introduced herself and positioned herself protectively in front of me. The tension in her interaction with John made it clear that she already knew what kind of person he was. "You can't force her to go anywhere against her will," Lisa said, her voice unwavering. Her confidence contrasted with my vulnerability, giving me the extra push to stand my ground. She even threatened to call the police, causing John to back off. Fear flickered in his eyes before he quickly walked away. As relief washed over me, my knees nearly buckled, but Lisa steadied me. "Are you all right?" she asked, genuinely concerned. Overwhelmed with emotion, I apologized, but she simply brushed it off and flagged down a taxi to ensure I got home safely. Despite my protests, she insisted it was no trouble. When I gave her my address, she was shocked. "No way. I live just upstairs," she exclaimed. Lisa was a bright, kind woman, and as we talked, she revealed that she had recently started working at John's company. She had filed a complaint against his inappropriate behavior, which resulted in him losing his mentorship role. According to Lisa, John had a reputation for making insensitive comments, particularly towards female colleagues, often joking about personal topics like marriage and menstruation. Over the next 2 weeks, Lisa and I grew close. We often shared meals and deep conversations. She kept me updated on John's situation at work, revealing that due to multiple complaints, he had been reassigned to a subsidiary. Then, she dropped a surprising revelation: she was Elizabeth's daughter, the very woman who had given me a safe place to stay. Ironically, John had once bragged about managing Elizabeth's account, only to end up demoted due to his own behavior. Elizabeth played a big role in holding him accountable, both professionally and personally. Lisa, wanting to fight injustice on her own terms, had taken a stand against workplace misconduct. When she told Elizabeth about her experience, her mother encouraged her to continue standing up for what's right, which only deepened our bond. As John's position weakened at work, his financial struggles worsened. He tried to use his job loss and hardships to manipulate me into reconsidering the divorce, but Elizabeth urged me to stay firm. With her support, I didn't waver. Eventually, John agreed to the divorce terms, which included child support and compensation. However, the challenges didn't end there. My father-in-law became overly fixated on my pregnancy, especially after learning I was carrying a boy. One day, as I was leaving my apartment, he suddenly grabbed my arm and demanded that I hand over the baby, insisting he was the rightful heir. His grip was tight and unrelenting, but before I could react, Lisa intervened. Having trained in self-defense to protect herself and her mother, she swiftly freed me from his grasp and firmly put him in his place. "You have no right to threaten her," she declared. "If you ever try this again, you'll regret it." But Lisa had done more than just defend me. She had already called the police before stepping in. As sirens blared in the distance, my mother-in-law sat silently in a parked car, watching everything unfold. The police arrived and arrested both of them, marking a turning point in my turbulent journey. Surprisingly, my mother-in-law later reflected on her choices and decided to divorce my father-in-law. John begged to move in with her in the countryside, but she refused. Through her lawyer, she even sent me an apology along with a small financial gift as a peace offering. Elizabeth explained that sometimes after a life-altering event like divorce, people seek redemption by making amends. Though I was taken aback by my mother-in-law's change of heart, I appreciated her effort. Once the divorce was finalized, I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby boy. I chose solitude over the chaos I once endured with John. My mother-in-law quietly left for the countryside, while my father-in-law, after his release, found himself homeless. Before leaving, his ex-wife had completely destroyed their house, leaving him with no choice but to move in with John. Their relationship crumbled under the weight of their shared downfall, and John eventually resigned from his job due to his damaged reputation. However, child support payments remained consistent, likely thanks to Elizabeth and the lawyer ensuring they were enforced. Meanwhile, Lisa's bravery and integrity at work didn't go unnoticed. She was promoted to project leader and earned widespread respect. Elizabeth continued expanding her initiatives, including women-only housing and properties for foreign residents. As for me, I planned to return to work once my son was older. Elizabeth generously offered me a position at a high-end cosmetics store she was launching, giving me a fresh start. She and Lisa remained my pillars of support, showering my son with love as if he were Elizabeth's own grandson. Lisa visited frequently, always bringing warmth and joy into our lives. Their unwavering strength and kindness inspired me. They showed me what it meant to be resilient, to protect the people you love, and to stand tall even in the face of adversity. And with them by my side, I knew I would raise my son to be just as strong. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.